All right, welcome back. We have a lot coming up later in the program. The Penguins, the Pirates, but right now we're talking about the Steelers, who are down at the NFL owners' meetings, and they have issues to deal with. We've been talking a lot about Le'Veon Bell. Kevin Colbert addressed that, says they still would like to have a long-term deal. But I want to get into the first item here, Andrew, and that would be Bud Dupree. He's coming off another bad season based on, I think, his potential, but he's in that area now where they have to activate a fifth-year option clause, which would guarantee next year's salary. Do you make that move, or do you do what they did with Jarvis Jones, which would say, no, prove it?
Yeah, that's my idea, because the guarantee number is so high that I think it's doubtful that Dupree's production in 2018 would justify that contract. So I put him in what is a motivating situation. You go out and have a good year, you get the opportunity to go into free agency and make yourself some big money and hope that I get a better Bud Dupree for that reason. But I think the guy's a bust. He made 0 plays the second half of the season. I know people will argue, well, they changed the responsibility or job description for an outside linebacker, but I didn't see him make plays in coverage either, so I'm out on Bud Dupree.
Well, they seem to be pretty high on him. Kevin said, I think the best of Bud Dupree is yet to come, and they're really high on his potential. When I think of him, it's hard for me to get the image of him almost ending Matt Moore's life in that playoff game against the Dolphins a year ago out of my mind. I mean, he's got the skill set. Look, I mean, I think they can activate the option because, look, if they don't have Le'Veon on the roster next year, well, heck, that frees up about probably $10 million worth of cap space.
He's not a $10 million player, Will.
But look, they did that. Remember what they did with Jason Worlds? His 4th year was up. They made him a transition player, and they paid him, what, $7.5 million against a much lower cap number?
He was better than Dupree.
I don't know about that at this point. I mean, he had a pretty good last season.
Yeah, I think
exactly.
The thing that they invested a first-round draft choice in Bud Dupree, and he's been here 3 years. They've invested a lot of time and energy. To me, I think they would be smart to exercise it so they have 2 years and they know what he's going to cost at that point. If he doesn't get it done over the next 2 years, then it's, you can cut bait and move on. But they keep wasting all these picks on outside linebackers. As sooner or later, they're going to just stick with one and see if he fits.
I'm not sure he's even good enough to start this season. I would go into the draft and I would be open-minded. Probably not the first-round pick, but if there's a good outside linebacker in the second round, I'd at least look into it. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, they don't have a lot of depth there. You look at it, Keon Adams, who's never played, Farrington Huguenin, and the only other guy on the roster is Anthony Chickalo.
And everybody's going, Chick, with the special teams guy. Who? And then who after that?
Paul,
right?
I mean,
do they still have Moats?
TJ Watt's on there, but he's on the opposite side.
Do they still have Moats?
Is a free agent.
Moats is a free agent, so likely won't be back. I want to ask you now about what the Steelers did, Will, in this free agency so far. They brought in John Bostic, Morgan Burnett. Was that enough to help their problems, or they need more?
It's what the Steelers do, right? I mean, look, they're never going to be the team that goes out and spends $100 million on the first day of free agency, partly because they can't, and second of all, that's just not what they do. I think Burnett, I think one of the most promising things about him is he is a good tackler.
Yep.
And I think that's what, if you're going from Mike Mitchell to Morgan Burnett, a guy that doesn't really want to tackle and just blow guys up, versus a guy that actually doesn't want to blow guys up and just tackle, that's probably an upgrade. Bostic, I mean, I think he's an insurance policy. I imagine he's not going to be starting.
Well, I think the thing about Bostic is he's had a lot of injuries in his career. There's no question about it. But when he's played, he's actually been productive. So to me, it's a pretty good insurance policy. Obviously, you want to go out and probably get an inside linebacker probably in the draft or whatever. But I don't know that it would be the worst thing in the world if you have to start the season with him starting. I think he's
disagree
good enough.
with that, Paul. I mean, what, 4 teams said he wasn't good enough? Why would it be different?
That was all injury stuff.
He seems sort of like Sean Spence 2.0 a little bit, doesn't he?
Well, all I know is last year he played 14 games. He had 97 tackles and led the Colts in tackles.
And the Colts stunk.
Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, he obviously was a very productive player.
Then why didn't they bring him back on the cheap?
Because he was hurt.
Okay, but if it's just a fluke injury, which he said he rolled up his knee, why wouldn't
It's not a fluke injury when there's 4. When you've had 4 injuries in your entire career. I don't think he's played a whole season.
Okay, so
that's the point.
Okay, so I don't get why you're endorsing the move then. If the guy's
I'm endorsing the move because I think he's a productive player that they got very cheap.
Yeah, I think he stinks. I think he's terrible.
Well, he might, but they got him at a very good price.
Yeah.
And now if they don't find another inside linebacker, they're at least in a little better place than they were last year at that position. And frankly, if he starts the season as a starter, I don't think that's the worst thing.
I mean, they don't have any money to spend. I mean, let's not pretend. We were not around here arguing about Donta Hightower like we were a year ago.
Martavis Bryant, I want to bring his name up too because Kevin Colbert was asked about that today, Andrew, with regard to possibly trading him if he got an offer. Do you sense that anyone would make an offer for Martavis Bryant? Talent is there. Upside is there. They still need him, I think, but if they could help their cause with another draft pick, Would you do it?
Well, I hear people that have argued that you look at past trades and you wouldn't get a lot for a wide receiver, but then I see what Jarvis Landry went for, and I see what second-rate, third-rate wide receivers, what they signed for, guys like Paul Richardson, and it makes me wonder if a team would offer like a third-round pick for him. If that were the case, I'd take the deal. I mean, think about it. He's going into the last year of his contract, and I've not heard one peep about the Steelers interested in trying to get him on a long-term deal. So, to me, if you could get a Friday pick, a third-round pick for the guy, I would make that trade.
The flip side, this sounds like this is like the Pirates' MO would be to trade him at this point, right? I mean, that's something that the Pirates would do. We're not going to re-sign him.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, but for me, look, I think they know they need to win now. And you're not going to find a third option at wide receiver or a borderline second, depending on how Juju is feeling on a given day of the week. You're not going to find a better option at wide receiver to win right now than Martavis.
Are you sure?
I mean, think so.
Well, they found Juju in the draft last year, and he was better than Bryant, right?
I mean, you're not going to find there are guys that are 6'5" that are on the 40 and 4'4" or not. There's just not a ton of them around. I think you need him if you want to win the Super Bowl.
All right, we're going to take a break, but before we do, it's time, ladies and gentlemen, for this week's Smooth Moves, brought to you by Armina Stone, Pittsburgh's largest supplier of the smoothest granite, marble, and quartz countertops. That's Armina Stone. So, your smooth moves of the week. Andrew, top to bottom, we start with you.
Mine goes out to Sister Jean. I think there's somebody. Hold on. There is somebody on this set who I think owes Sister Jean an apology for the way that he has dragged this woman through the mud over the last few days. I am ecstatic that she is in the Final Four. I want to see Loyola go all the way. Good for you, Sister Jean.
Low-hanging fruit here, but my God, the goal Sidney Crosby scored on Wednesday against Carey Price. We take his brilliance for granted. I take his brilliance for granted, but there aren't two guys in the world that could have made that play. Ridiculous.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch the Final Four and see 9,000 shots of that old lady. Come on. Come on.
If you can't like Sister Jean.
I like her. I think I don't need to see her every 5 seconds, and I certainly don't need to hear from her anymore. We heard her story. It's great.
The Hail Mary.
I just want to watch basketball.
She's got better basketball.
I just want to watch basketball.
Paul, she knows more about the tournament than Barkley. She actually knows the players' names.
Okay, yeah, okay, good. Yeah, I want to hear from her then.
All right.
Get out of here, will you please? My guy is Francisco Cervelli. 4 home runs. It looks like he's having a good spring.
That's a smooth move for you. Will, there was a goal today by Crosby you could have used as well, which I thought is only he can do. Those are the smooth moves of the week, brought to you by Armina Stone, featuring Pittsburgh's largest indoor stone gallery of granite and marble countertops, imported from all over the world to give you the smoothest countertops in the area. When we come back, Penguins, who's their biggest competition in the East? We'll talk about it next.